You and I met, I think probably 2020. You had these lunches at Stitch where anyone could come. You still do it every day. You've built this open office environment where people can come and work, and some people like myself have taken full advantage of that. Yeah. I think it's really distinct, right? You're trying to be, in my opinion, at least, like this node in the middle of an ecosystem, like literally, right, stitching together the ecosystem. Yeah. I want to talk about how that relates to talent as well. But before we do, can you just talk a little bit about the company building, the cultural element of Stitch and your vision for that, or why you've done the things that you've done and how it sort of impacts the business objectives that you guys have?
I guess somehow this started was romantic in like a few ways. One, I come from a gigantic Indian family, and I've been fortunate that the households I've grown up in have always been very central from like a community perspective, like people in and out 24/7. I remember having like friends over in certain points in time, and they were like, who are all these random people? Random people are in and out, and they're like, the gates just open, what's happening? And so I've always loved and been guilty of not having any boundaries in terms of like, we'll go to lunch and an investor will be there and a friend and a family member and a coworker. That's always been like an important thing for me personally. Secondly, I think, at least for me, have been fortunate to spend a decent amount of time in Silicon Valley, in San Francisco, and like actually seeing sort of some of the culture there. And one of probably my favorite part, which is, commonly lauded, is how open it is. Right? I would meet a random person, who worked at X billion-dollar startup, and you chat to them a little bit about some kooky idea, and they'd be like, "Oh, let me introduce you to the founder, to the CEO." And I'm like, "Of this like billion, no way! Like you can't use your social capital like that. Like it's and I think a lot of maybe let me just speak from South Africa's perspective, not be overly general, but it's like very closed off, right? Yeah. Like people often don't want to spend their social capital. People don't want to sort of interact out of their sphere. I've always thought that's just such a massive thing that's been holding these ecosystems back. I think we do a very, very small part to help that. But that was a big piece about how we thought about hiring people initially. It's like, how open are these people to like community? How open are these people to like a lot of this unknown? And we didn't deliberately do this, but like, the first 4 or 5 team members that joined, I don't know, 3 of them were actively dissuaded by friends and family to join like Stitch.
Really?
They were like, don't do it. Like, this is crazy startup. You're working in like a room in someone else's office. They have, like 12 months of like runway. What's runway?
Yeah. This guy's walking around with no shoes on.
Yeah. Well, what's happening? Why are they talking about things like the company will go out of business in 12 months? What are you doing? You're like in a good job. And I think weirdly counterintuitively, like the people that were like, I'm going to like, this is cool. I'm interested, right? Like the openness to like try something like that. And I think that's been a very, after like a point in time, you build a little bit of a critical mass where that becomes self-fulfilling, right? Yeah. And you those people attract similar people, and you start to build that up. And I think we've been really lucky that we've been able to build up sort of people like that. And this openness has like attracted so many people. I can't tell you how many people have been totally disinterested in Stitch, and then we've said, come have lunch with us. And they've come once, and after the lunch, I'll get a phone call or a message, and they'll say, are you guys still hiring?
Really?
And yeah, I can point to at least 10 examples in like a 70-person company that we've hired. We've had other people that we haven't even hired, where that's happened like a ton.
Yeah.
So that's been great.
Yeah. I mean, you guys have definitely built up a pretty good reputation in Cape Town, certainly, as like a choice employer. I think the question I have for you, though, is if you can take me all the way back to the beginning, right? You're sort of in this this virtuous cycle, but at the beginning, were you having to sell? Sounds like to some of those other people, you found some people that were open, but were you also having to sell, especially in the South African context, like we can build something meaningful. Yeah. You can, earn startup equity that could be actually worth something, and you should come do this crazy thing. Like how much of it was also like in spite of the money or the resources or anything, like having to sell and to pitch people to actually come and join you?
Huge for long. I would say, I don't know, till at least, timelines get blurry, but till at least probably like we were 30 odd people, maybe which is about when we raised our A, where we had a decent amount of capital at that point in time. Most people were like a really, really desperate, long sell, it's scary, right? Like no one understands what a startup is really. Certainly no one understands what equity is. No one has really made money in most of these markets from equity. There's like a few handful of people. So when you say, hey, we're going to pay you like a mostly market salary, but we're going to give you like a lot of equity, like in the really early days, people were like, yeah, but like, equity is not going to pay for, my bond. Equity is not like, it was very difficult. And even people that didn't have obligations were just like, I don't know what that is. I'm not super sure. And so at the beginning, I think it was like fortunate that we found a few people that were really quote unquote like startup-y, right? And did really value equity. And so that was helpful at the beginning. And then after that, it was, just a ton of like relationship building. At the beginning, I was a bit more intense about you have to join here and now. I think I started to realize stage fit is a very real thing, right? Like not everybody wants to join the 3-person company. But I also probably have like 20 examples of people that we had conversations with, every 3 months for 2 years. And then, eventually they joined. And those are some of the best people we have now. And it worked out great. The stage fit, like when we were a 30-person company, was much better for those people. And wherever we thought, there was really strong talent, we were very happy to have that conversation, to like keep in touch, have them come over for lunch, have them work from the office, join hackathons. We send tech updates too. So the equivalent of like investor updates, we send tech updates. We send those to like prospective engineers, right? The same way we send like investor updates to prospective investors to just keep people interested. And that's proven to be like really, really good. Because I think for like startups and things like this where they are high risk, often people just need to build up conviction over time, which has proven to be great.